Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is Dr. Marina Mangano going over another step-by-step process for safe yoga poses. My pose tonight is going to be Malasana, or yogi squat. And I want to do this pose because I've been referring a lot of patients to the internet recently to work on this at home, and I just don't know how it's being described and explained to them, so I'd rather have this video to send you with. And most often I provide and refer people to this pose for pelvic floor rehabilitation. So whether it doesn't need to be just after a baby, that is most often when people need pelvic floor reintegration, but it could be anything, just like a fall down the stairs, too much rotation sports with not enough core exercises. If you're really flexible and you feel like your body is super tense through the hips, pelvic floor is really effective, and it's a huge component of our pressure system and our breathing system. So in yoga, we always talk about the thoracic diaphragm, but a diaphragm really means a collaboration of muscles that works together to create a pumping system. If it's pumping air, if it's pumping blood, if it's pumping digestive, there's a lot of different reasons that your body needs to be in this multi-layered, synchronized pumping rhythm. And functionally, we call it a functional diaphragm. You have a couple of them. There's many of them, and we're going to talk about the pelvic floor tonight as one of these functional diaphragms. So it's a group of muscles that together creates a cone shape underneath the ilium, so the wing bones here, and it comes down into a cone shape, and it creates the opposing method from your diaphragm. So when your diaphragm expands, the lungs, you inhale, the lungs lower, the diaphragm pushes all the contents down. There needs to be something to then create tension. So that's your pelvic floor coming back to create this canister of pressure. So with Malasana, when I get into the pose, if you have incontinence or you have urgency, you have pelvic floor pain, maybe during sexual positions or athletic positions, this is a great opportunity to address them, realize when either pressure versus not pressure that you have pain, and then it helps the person who's treating you understand when you need to be rehabilitated. So going into Malasana, or yogi squats, usually we cue it from a chair pose where your feet are about hip width distance, and then opening the toes out wider so that your heels are on the inside and starting to sink back like you're going to sink in a chair. So already I kind of feel like I'm falling forward, so I know my pelvic structure needs a little bit more depth. So opening a little bit wider, almost like you're in temple pose, and then sinking into the squat. And you can workshop and kind of maneuver yourself to get comfortable once you're there. I like to add a little bit of just mobility into the ankles. So the hands come together only because we have to press the elbows into the inside of the knees to create this uprighting. So it's a bind, actually. The knees are pressing into the forearms, and the forearms are pressing back into the knees. Again, a lot of times there's a sensation of falling forward. So if you can hold, if you're at home or at the gym, you can hold a weight in front of you to keep you from, it's gonna help your center of gravity shift down to the ground, so you can actually then find some flexibility. Without that stability, you won't be able to drop into this pose correctly. So you can see it from the side. Malasana, yogi squat, hands are coming together, pressing the knees apart. There's a tendency to round here so you don't fall backwards, but actually bringing those shoulder blades down the back, letting the sternum come forward so your spine is upright, that's gonna allow you the stability to stay in this posture. The breath then, once you're there, is the opposite of a traditional Kegel, or a Kegel, however you pronounce it. So it's a Kegel or Kegel is a shortening of the pelvic floor, trying to pull the pelvic floor up and in. Something you would want to do to stop going to the bathroom. There is a misconception that when you have pelvic floor incontinence, you have to practice these Kegels all the time. It's a great awareness to understand where the pelvic floor even is, but when you cough, sneeze, move really quickly, that builds pressure in your body. So as the pressure builds, you don't want a shortened Kegel. You want to be able to have a pelvic floor that control elongation. Quick, not prepared, elongated movement. So it's actually a controlled, strengthened lengthening of the pelvic floor that's going to heal a lot of incontinence and pelvic floor issues. So in Malasana, the breath is the most important part of this pose. So once you're here, add the uprighting, add the bind. Pressure can be a little bit more on the outside of the feet to again open the legs. And then you allow the belly to breathe and get full expansion on the inhale. As you exhale, try not to suck in and lose everything. You try to keep this canister regardless of inhale or exhale. You may have a little bit of nervousness if you're just recovering from pelvic floor rehab. As you inhale and let pressure, trust the pressure on the pelvic floor. This is how we get there. So keep trusting it, keep practicing, and allow the pelvic floor to reintegrate with your skull, your diaphragm, and the feet actually too. The arches are really helping here. So anytime you get into this pose, I recommend at least 10 to 20 breaths. If you can't stay there that long, it's helpful to maybe hold on to a table or a chair so you can actually just sink back into the pose and practice the breathing. Beautiful. So if you have any further questions about either the topic or other poses that help in this rehab, I'd love to offer them for you. Have a great night, and I'll see you next week.